Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of You Are Not Your ROAS by Triple Whale. We're happy to have you. We have a banger today I'm Rabah, your host. I'm with my partner in crime, Max Blanc. He is the co-founder of Triple Whale and an operator and crusher in the industry.
Hey.
And today we have a real treat for you. We have Josh. Josh Durham is a absolute crusher in marketing strategy, has a fantastic agency, a wealth of knowledge, and Forbes 30 under 30. So Josh, happy to have you.
Happy to be here. I didn't realize that was on episode 1. That is, I can't believe I'm on the first. This is crazy.
It's marketing 101. You lead with the hitter.
Wow.
So I am out in our satellite campus in Austin. Max is in our HQ in Columbus. And Josh, you're in Nashville?
Yes, sir. Nashville, Tennessee.
And according to my notes, because I stalked you a little bit, you went to school there as well, right?
Yep. I went to a small little Christian school, Tribeca Nazarene. Shouts out to Tribeca.
Hello.
Ran college track there. It was a fun time.
What'd you run? I ran a little bit myself.
You did? I'm like a mid-distance guy, like 800 meters.
Oh.
Okay, so we consider that almost like a sprinter. That, in my opinion, that was I did D1 cross and then mile, 2 mile. But the 800, in my opinion, was the most ridiculous race ever. So basically two quarter-mile sprints.
In college, Rob, you did this?
Yeah.
Wow.
I did cross country.
D1. I was just a mere Division II athlete.
So good.
He's legit.
Yeah.
I'm a faker.
I
was just there for the scholarship.
To be fair, I only did it for 2 years and I transferred. Running was a really hard. It's a hard gig for sure. So you've been in Nashville how many years, Josh?
I've been in Nashville for 10 years.
What do you like about the city? What kept you there for what's so cool about it?
Nashville's awesome. I mean, obviously we have the country music scene, but I'm a big coffee guy. And so the coffee here just goes way harder than any other city, arguably harder than Seattle. That's a hot take. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Nashville. Just the scene with entrepreneurship, with music, centrally located, no state income tax. Those are all huge pluses for sure.
How do you take your coffee?
Usually just black. My go-to, like today, is just an ice cold brew. That's usually kind of my go-to. I also do, cappuccinos, do pour-overs at the house, all sorts of different combinations.
I love it. All right, let's drill down into it. You're 4 years out of school, and you landed on the Forbes 30 under 30. That's pretty impressive. How do you do that? What got you there? What was the experience like? Tell us a little bit about that.
All you have to do to get on the Forbes 30 under 30 list is pay $30,000.
At least they keep the numbers
No, I'm just
symmetrical.
messing. I feel like that's the kind of the stigma of the Forbes list on Twitter. I feel like I get shit on all the time on Twitter for having Forbes in my bio. I might just take it out. But I can tell you the real story. So I started an e-com brand. It was called Weighting Comforts.
Okay.
And it was a weighted blanket brand. I launched it out of my parents' garage. We scaled it from 0 to 6.5 mil a year in like 2 or 3 years.
Nice.
And made the big jump. So when I applied, I got basically introduced to the Forbes team, I don't know, like mid 2018 from a former winner guy. And I applied. And at the time we were making the jump. We were on track from going from 2 mil a year to 10 in a year. That's kind of like what we were on track for mid-year. And so I was on the social enterprise part because we actually employed refugee women here in Nashville to sew the blanket. So we had that component to it where we employ this underserved community, teach them how to sew, and then we'd also provide paid English classes on site and provide a sustainable source of income. And so that was like a big part of our mission, was employing that community here in Nashville.
You sourced the weighted blankets in the U.S.?
Yeah, I set up all my own manufacturing.
Wow. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I guess a quick backstory. So my mom and I were actually business partners on that brand. And so my mom was kind of like much more involved in the production of everything. Like she has, she used to sew a lot growing up on just like different things. And so, but basically there's a program called Sew for Hope here in Nashville that they would teach these refugee women how to sew. But once they graduated that program, because, they didn't have the English speaking skills to get kind of a job. Like a lot of these women, they would have like master's degrees in physics, and like all this crazy qualifications, but because they didn't speak the language, they couldn't get a job when they came to the States, which was a big bummer, right? And so this program basically gave them a skill so that they could, earn income. But when they graduated that program, they didn't have anywhere to go. And so we started hiring people out of that program and partnering with that nonprofit. And our head seamstress, her name was Anwar, and basically she helped us start to, find other people in their community that needed work, that needed help. And then from there, we just started, with like cottage industry manufacturing. So it's basically paying by piecework. So like for a blanket, we'd pay $30 for them per unit that they would sew. So literally I would get the raw materials shipped to my garage. We'd put them together and then we'd meet in the parking lot of like Goodwill. Wow. And we would I had a big minivan and we literally would just pay them in a check and just load up the van. It was it was so much fun. But
that's a story.
So I was basically deadlifting thousands of pounds because these are weighted blankets, right? For 20 to 30 pounds. Yeah, exactly. And anyways, so from there, transitioned out of my garage, went into a manufacturing facility, started out with 2,000 square feet, ended up at the end of that year, the next year, increasing that to 20,000 square feet. So we kind of slowly increased that. And, we bought all of our own sewing machines, cutting boards, imported fabric, all that good stuff, all stateside. And so we had this huge operation of 60 employees here in Nashville doing, a part of it was, the office, the marketing team, administrative, all that fun stuff. And then the large part of the, that employee base was manufacturing.
Wow. And this was your first business?
That was my first business, unless you want to dive deep into, me selling illegal NBA jerseys on eBay.
We can skip that one, although that's probably cool too. But wait, how old were you here?
No.
How old were you?
Mark Cuban's going to hear this. I started Wade & Comforts when I was 20, right when I turned 20.
And so, what did you study in school?
Business management, business administration, but I was mainly in class.
Right. Mainly you got the real education with this, right?
Yeah, I was usually exactly. I was deadlifting thousands of pounds.
And you got the exercise.
Of weighted blankets. Yeah, exactly. Or I was either running or shipping blankets in my parents' garage. So that was kind of my education.
So that sounds like a lot going on. How do you stay so motivated and so, bite down on the mouthpiece and keep plodding forward even when, sometimes there's days where, crap just doesn't work out. Sometimes I had an old football coach who said sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you. It just is what it is in life. What do you use to kind of power through those moments, or do you have any frameworks or in those deep, dark areas, you know what I mean, when things are not the best, how do you stay kind of grounded and, focused on the mission?
Yeah, for sure. So, I feel like a lot of people, they're either motivated by trying to avoid a negative experience or trying to experience a positive one. Right. And so I feel largely with Wade & Comforts, I was trying to avoid a negative experience because I grew up broke, and my dad, he lost his job twice in 5 years growing up. So that was a really tough experience for my family. And I knew that's not the experience that I wanted to have. But, I feel like that's not necessarily the most healthy thing to motivate you, being motivated by fear. And so for me, I try to motivate myself by wanting to experience a positive experience. So for me, I have a document I go to every morning. It kind of talks through, some of my core values as a person, just like mission statements, where I want to be in 3 years, who I want to be, what I want my life to look like. And then, like staying grounded in just like the day-to-day grind and just kind of like quantifying where I'm at in life has always kind of helped me ground myself in the morning before, going into work.
Did you ever have a coach or anything to help you put that document together, or was this something you did on your own?
Yeah, it's kind of been like pieced together over the years. So I've been through, different courses. I've had, awesome mentors in my life. But one of the things that it actually originated from was the book Traction.
Broke something over here.
I don't know if you've ever. Oh, you're good. One of my favorite books is Traction.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of just like a business operations framework.
The EOS.
It's really popular. Yeah, the old EOS. And one of those things that it had in there was talking about what like the qualities that you admire in other people, and like writing those down, and then kind of like distilling it down to 4 as like your core values as a company.
Yeah.
And I kind of have done that for myself over the years of like, I kind of have like a handful of people in my life personally that I look up to in a lot of ways, whether it's, they're great family men or they're great business guys, or, they've just inspired me in different ways. And so I like kind of distill some of those qualities down to, who I want to become. And I kind of like want to like read over those every morning to see, to kind of ground me.
That's huge. It's massive. The EOS is one of those books that like I read through, and it's like, okay, I'm going to implement everything in that book, next month. And I just never went around to do it. And it's like something I regret that I didn't do yet, but there's a lot of nuggets in there that are just so valuable. And for me as an entrepreneur, to have like that in the morning grounding document, whatever it may be, thought, meditation, it's like the key to just keeping it going, keep your eye on the prize. It helps you get through those really dark times, like you said, Rava, Anyways.
I love it.
Cool. Absolutely. Do you guys do that? Or is that just like very type A of me?
I actually have a whole notion.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Max.
Go for it. For me personally, I do it. It's more in my head, and it needs to come out. It's something I've been like wanting to do, and it's like just another one of those things. But I know the value of it. Like I've had coaches before, and it's huge. And it's something that like they always pound into my head is like start writing these things down. And it's like one of those things I like wrote down once, threw it away, and it's just always coming back. And it's this conversation is making me want to do it. So.
Dude, just take an hour to write it down.
Yeah, that's huge.
Worth it.
Sorry, Robert, go for it.
Yeah, you have a Notion? That's legit.
Yeah, I've actually never read this book, so I try and consume voraciously. So I'm excited to read this one. But yeah, I try and do that journaling as well, Josh, where it's a beautiful moment. And I think having those different times, there it is, right off the shelves.
Yeah.
I literally have 3 on my
click my affiliate link. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, exactly.
Swipe up.
But yeah, I think just any kind of form of self-reflection, but also in a weird way, like it's a certain balance of like you want to keep the ambition, right? You don't want to feel complacent when you do have these great successes, but at the end of the day, you need to feel successful to encourage positive behavior. Like if you're just constantly running up against a wall, even though like quote unquote you're succeeding, but you don't feel successful, you're going to break that behavior loop. And so I think what you do is beautiful, kind of driving gratitude home and realizing, hey, like this is where I want to be, but this is also where I'm at. And so there's, that kind of bookshelfing or bookending. Jesus, I can't find of that. I think is just a fascinating way to do it. Okay, one more question to wrap up kind of our little cool personal segment to get to know the media buyer, agency owner, et cetera. What's the most important thing you've learned in your life, and what was your life before you learned that, and what was your life after you learned that? Deep.
Oh my gosh. What's the most important thing in my life that I've ever learned? Oh my gosh. How do I even... I don't even know where to start with that.
Maybe bring it, if it's too difficult, we can edit this out, right? But maybe it's a suggestion. Most important thing that you've learned in terms of like entrepreneurship or something like that. Maybe that's easier for you.
Okay.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad? No.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, yeah. I guess, I think for me is just like, I think for me, in entrepreneurship, there's kind of two things. So one, from that experience of running Waiting Comforts and it tanking, one of my favorite sayings, it's on my website now, is like top line's vanity, bottom line is sanity. And so I'm
awesome.
very focused.
That's good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a very it's kind of a catchy saying, but it's also very true. Like I had a business that was doing $500K a month that was hemorrhaging cash. And so I think that's kind of like my new guiding principle when it comes to entrepreneurship is I'm a very profit first entrepreneur. I like to run my business now at a very, very high margin. And the way I do that, is through a very structured approach. But two is also just having a vision. Like you really need to have a vision for your life for you to so that you have guardrails in the business that you're trying to build. And so it's kind of like what we were just talking about in terms of having a vision for your life personally, but also, once you have a vision, it kind of helps you have a way to say yes and have a way to say no to things. And so kind of starting from that, I think it's just so easy, especially for all, we're all on Twitter, we're seeing these crazy, exits or,
NFTs.
cool businesses that are being built. And so, but, the right business for someone else might not be the right business for you. And so I think for me I think that's something I've really had to ground myself in this year is just having a vision for what I want and sticking to that so that I can say, yes to the right opportunities and no to the wrong ones.
Great. So that clear vision
that.
enables you to obviously maintain focus by being able to say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had an old boss that he would say
Rama?
when you have.
Okay.
I had an old boss that said
right.
when you have principles, decisions are easy, because you have that reference point to do that too, or reference those decisions too. So that's awesome, Josh. Killer. All right, folks, this is what you signed up for. This is what you wanted to buy the ticket to the ride. We're going to get into our value add segment. So first off, Josh, what are your thoughts and kind of what have been the implications and what are the future knock-on effects of iOS 14 and kind of the privacy changes in terms of the paid media environment and e-com in general?
Yeah, great question. I mean, for one, I think that, I just had a client call today that I kind of had to even reiterate, new benchmarks in terms of like what success looks like for on-platform reporting, right? So like for this specific client, their ROAS has dropped by a whole, 1x, we'll call it. So they typically run at a 2.5x return inside Facebook, and now they're at like a 1.5. But if you look at their like blended return, overall their store is doing a 4x MER, right? Or 4x ROAS. And so I think that's the difficult part as like an agency owner is some of it is just, continuing the client education of what that looks like. And then also just some of the challenges are, we're using benchmarks for 2020 that were, the highest consumer spending year ever. And so having that as an expectation, and then also, getting rid of the 28-day click window, plus getting rid of, all the different tracking from users that are opting out, I think just presents, challenges on, client education, and then just having like proper expectations in place. So that's kind of like my, agency owner hat. I don't know if you want to expand on that, Max, as a brand owner.
Yeah, the lack of visibility on platform is extremely frustrating, obviously. So, before when I was running my brand, definitely 2020 was a different world, with you got the COVID bump, then you had Q4 bump, and it was just like an unbelievable situation. So that was a lot to handle. But when it was spending at such a high volume, I was always kind of looking at MER anyways, and using that as my my North Star in a sense. But I'm going to plug in Triple Whale real quick because to be able to see everything and to see your bottom line really gives you that power when things can seem somewhat blind, that you can keep sort of pushing on the gas, as long as you're still getting that margin that you want, you're getting some cash turnover, and you're reaching your goals. Like, to have that MER as the metric is really the way to go.
Absolutely. And it kind of feels like, I feel like a broken record talking about it, but it's kind of funny because I guess I didn't have the terminology of, MER.
Me neither until.
If anyone doesn't know what that is, it's media efficiency ratio. So it's basically ROAS.
Blended ROAS. Right?
Yeah, it's like I feel like people like to use the word MER just because it sounds fancy.
Sure.
But blended ROAS, MER, same thing. I've been doing that since 2015.
Sure. Yeah.
It's kind of funny, and now I feel like it's just the environment has changed so much that people are having to go back to good old fashioned direct response principles to really get their MER back in place. And then also, it's kind of like flying blind a little bit. It's kind of similar to running ads on YouTube. I don't know if you know this, but on YouTube, the attribution is really weak just because it's all view through versus click. And so, it just makes a lot of challenges. And I think that's why we're seeing so many, media buyers going in-house, brands bringing media buying back in-house, because they can't justify the return in platform versus, those retainer fees.
Right. Rob had I was in the Triple Whale University. I don't know if we've released that yet, but he had a great breakdown of MER versus CPA, right, Rob? And that gave me so much clarity. I'm telling you, I spent maybe $15 million on Facebook ads just with my two brands. I had no idea why I chose blended ROAS until Rob, 3 months ago, a month ago, told me what the difference was.
Yeah. We'll
break it down, Robert. I want to know this knowledge.
Yeah, ultimately, basically what you're just saying, right now the platform metrics are no longer precise or accurate, but they do hold directionality. So you have to abstract up to that channel agnostic MER, where it's and to your point of profits, you can even ratchet up to profits, or down, if you will, to profits, where instead of the numerator being total sales, it can be total net profit, and you can run your business like that. But yeah, you're light years ahead of the game, and ultimately at the end of the day, that's what we care about. And I think people got caught up in, to your point, the vanity of just all this success. It was just there's a funny saying, everybody looks like a genius in a bull market. And I think that there was a little bit like that for e-commerce in the last 4 or 5 years, where if you were any semblance of a best practice and a decent website and a decent offer, you were going to print some money.
You're 100% right.
Absolutely.
All right, let's jump into another one, Josh. All right. What's one thing you've done for a client that they didn't expect?
One thing I did for a client that they didn't expect, in a good way or a bad way?
Hopefully in a delightful way.
Hopefully in a productive way. I think a lot of people kind of think about, if we're going to outsource your paid media, it's kind of like a hired hand. But I think that, a lot of times the strategy matters a lot more than the tactics. And so bringing in, more frameworks in terms of your spend to revenue ratio, and kind of helping your client understand performance and platform. I think that's kind of what has helped a lot my clients' retention, right? Is just bringing that strategy into place versus just kind of being, an outsourced media buyer. And I think that kind of helps differentiate us a lot, is kind of the brain power and just experience that we bring to the table.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I've kind of dubbed, I think this era, we're going to see in the next 2 to 4 years, the emergence of a mini CMO, where you're going to bring in kind of this media buyer on steroids that can kind of oversee, maybe not deploy all your channels, but have some semblance of your whole ecosystem, because it is getting a wild, wild west out there. And I love the idea of just kind of expectation setting, educating your clients, empathy. I was going to ask you what was one tip, but you just gave us 3 for retention. So write those down, people. That's just so on the nose in terms of exactly what you need to be doing. And quite frankly, that's what differentiates you, is that strategic mindset. You're essentially no longer buying, not to be a pejorative, but like a keyboard monkey, somebody's that's just going to flight ads. There's a thesis building to this. There's an experiment test, and then we run a new experiment, and we're going to add accretive revenue to your business, versus retargeting. We're just going to smash it in the first month, and you've never run ads, and now I look like a god. It's this is just not sustainable. I love that, man. I love it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think part of it too is if you're just going to be I think the days of just being a media buyer are over. And I feel like a lot of these roles are being consolidated. Like you said, Raba, is kind of like having that mini CMO mentality, because Facebook ads or like ad buying, that is literally the tip of the iceberg in terms of like what makes performance, right? And like from the creative, like to clicking on the landing page, to like having, a great product strategy, to having your emails dialed in, to having your back end fulfillment. Like there's like, just on the marketing side, like negate what I said about like fulfillment, but just in terms of like retention, having subscription programs, like there's all these other things that go into it other than just getting a cheap click to the site. And I think that's part of the challenge of being an outsourced arm, is I don't always have control over those things. I can point to them, but I think that it makes it difficult because owning every part of your business is basically you're running someone else's business for them. And that's, that has its own set of challenges as well.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Josh, can you believe it? You made it through the first two segments unscathed. Now we're going to do something like a little bit called rapid fire. I don't know if you guys remember American Gladiators, but it's going to be like you running through the gauntlet, and we're just going to shoot questions at you. Max is going to run this segment, so Max, take it away.
Okay. All right, so TikTok, overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
CPMs, overrated or underrated?
CPMs? Overrated.
Nashville.
Underrated.
Oh, sleep.
Underrated.
Favorite meal and why?
Probably the beer can chicken at Fifth and Taylor in Nashville. That's probably my favorite meal, and it probably would be my last meal here on Earth. It's, why? Because it's amazing. It's like a southern. I don't know. It's just like there's like mashed potatoes, asparagus, chicken. It's a well-balanced meal.
All right.
Have it with like an old-fashioned. That would be my vibe.
I got it. Favorite place to travel, or favorite place traveled to, and why?
Oh, man. I just love going out west, so probably like Wyoming.
All right.
I just think the Tetons are next level. I grew up going to Colorado, but I just feel like the Tetons are just like a whole nother level, just because you're on the plains and these rocks are just jetting out from the plains. It's quite the experience.
I'm not gonna lie, I was just looking up what Tetons were. Favorite way to spend your free time?
Traveling with my wife.
All right. Favorite follow on Twitter?
Oh man, favorite follow on Twitter. I really love following Taylor Welch on Twitter. I think he's a really interesting guy.
All right. Taylor Welch. Okay, here we go. Here's the last one. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
They can be fictional and non-fictional as well.
So, alive, Kanye West. Dead, probably C.S. Lewis. And one last one. Who else would I have dinner with? Probably like Jeff Bezos. Okay. I feel like that would be quite the dinner.
All right.
That's amazing. Kanye, Jeff Bezos. that right there is the price of admission. That's incredible. Well, congratulations, Josh. We'll have to send you a big stuffed whale. You made it through our rapid fire. You're the first one. Congratulations. So I know you said your agency might not be taking any new clients, but you have something kind of cool going on with Ambassador Program. You want to tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually just now launching an ambassador management program for brands. And so one of the big problems that we've been seeing in the market is typically, the creative is like one of the most important parts to your ad account, right? So if you're not getting good creatives, then you're not going to get cheaper clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're not going to get, the engagement that you're looking for. Therefore, you're not going to get the ROAS. And so the way that we're solving that, instead of, a couple white guys, shooting, ads on a backdrop in a studio, trying to come up with the next best thing, we're going to manage the influencer relationship for you. And so basically at the end of 3 months, we're going to have signed, 200 influencers, send them free product, get them onboarded onto a piece of tech to track their organic sales. And so you're not only going to be able to leverage that creative inside your ad platform, but you're also going to be able to get the organic benefit coming from, their Instagram, their YouTube, their TikTok, coming to your site. And then one other thing that is really interesting, I have a friend who's actually selling his company next week. And one of the things that he was telling me about the buyer of his brand is that they really care about the community. And I think that this is something that people talk about a lot, but I haven't seen it executed well, is really building up, your brand equity from the community. And because you're going to get that more organic traffic and that organic following, I think that there's a lot of value there that isn't being built out in the marketplace. And so, this is perfect for, a 7 to 8 figure brand that just needs consistent creatives in their ad account, but also can get that organic traffic coming in from, Instagram or YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, for my brand, we used to have a very similar program, but we managed it all in-house, and it became very challenging to manage it in-house. So to have an agency or a hired gun to take it off our plate and to organize things nicely is definitely huge. It was one of the key reasons as to why we were able to scale from 6 figures to multiple 7 figures, was to have that constant stream of creative coming through the door.
Absolutely. Just go to my site, alignedgrowthmanagement.com, and book a call, and we can see if we can help.
Boom. There you have it, people. Well, the first episode is in the books. Go get an ambassadorship with my man, Josh. Go check out Nashville, get some beard chicken. This is Rabba, my co-host Max, the man, and then Josh again. Thank you so much for your time, brother. We really appreciate it, and all the support for Triple Whale. We have a cool newsletter called Whale Mail. Go sign up on our Twitters, and then obviously, if you haven't tried Triple Whale, fastest tool for the fastest growing brands and agencies. It's one dashboard, all the metrics, plus a mobile app, super awesome. Hit us up, trytriplewhale.com. We're also on the Twitters at trytriplewhale. We're out, people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.